Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine Teen Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I want to share a VR to Heather, whose channel is called Heather, and a video that she did that I will link below called something like 10 things I won't do on my channel, or 10 things I probably won't do on my TarotTube channel in particular. I thought that this was an interesting video and I wanted to make a VR. I was challenged to not just repeat a lot of what Heather had to say. I feel like I, agree with and have in common a lot of what Heather said she wouldn't do on her channel, but I've come up with a list of 10 anyway. There's definitely going to be some overlap. I've written them on a post-it, and I've taken my camera out to my backyard, so I thought I would share from here. I have no idea what the lighting is going to do, but, such is filming outside. So, 10 things that I will not be doing on my channel. I'll timestamp them below if you would like to jump ahead. The first thing that I will not be doing on my channel is editing out when I say or when I pause to gather my thoughts. I say sometimes. I hesitate sometimes. I need to think about my words sometimes, and that is what I'm like when you encounter me out in the world in conversation. I feel like that is true of most people, and I have no desire to edit those things out. I don't feel even the slightest bit bothered by people saying or people pausing when they're speaking in their videos, because people do this in everyday life. I spent a good chunk of my recent adult life, lecturing for a living, and sometimes I need to pause and sometimes I need to say and that's just how I sound. So I won't be editing those things out. I will also say I prefer and pauses to like a really choppy edit, just as a kind of aesthetic preference, so I'm not going to be changing that. The second thing that I will not be doing on my channel is narrowly focusing my channel's theme. I not too long ago went from being called Aquamarine 18 to being called Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books for the sake of being searchable, really, since Aquamarine 18 started as just a username when I didn't make any of my own content. Obviously, it doesn't say anything substantive about what my channel contains, and I did want it to have something like that in the title so people could find me more easily, but I will always have content that is neither tarot nor books. I have no intention at this point, though I have thought about it in the past, of making a booktube channel and separating that out from the tarot channel. At this point, this is the Laura channel, and if I'm interested in something sufficiently that I want to share it with viewers, then I will make a video about it and it will go on this channel. I am a multifaceted human who likes multiple things, and I'm, happy to talk about books and tarot, obviously, other divination systems, my druidry path, all kinds of things that fascinate me. So that is what you will find here. I feel like it takes, a particular amount of time and work to come up with channel content and then to create that content and post it. And if I had multiple channels, I feel like they would all just be updated really irregularly, even more irregularly and even less frequently than my channel already is now. So, I don't think it would work for me in that way. I also really like when people talk about the things that they're interested in, just in a general sort of a way. I enjoy hearing from TarotTube folks about other things that they're doing and other things that they like, so I would like to bring that to my channel also. The third thing that I will never, and I don't say never too often and mean it, but this one I think I definitely can honestly say I will never make shorts. I am not concise when I speak. I can tend towards being a touch long-winded, and I know this about myself, but even besides that, I don't like them. I don't like shorts. I don't watch them. I see a place for them, for particular kinds of purposes, but I don't make content I don't think that would be amenable to shorts, and I don't watch them. So I will not be making shorts on my channel. The fourth thing that I will not be doing on my channel is pick-a-pile readings. There are a few channels that do pick-a-pile readings, among other things, that I'm subscribed to and that I'll watch. It is just not a type of reading that I feel like is necessarily compatible or amenable to the way that I read cards for other people. I tend towards being quite question focused, and if I'm sitting with someone, whether that's on Zoom or in person, doing a reading for them, it tends to be pretty conversational. There's a lot of back and forth and kind of clarification and asking about, you know, whether something sounds relevant to the person. And so doing a kind of reading that doesn't have a focus on a particular querent and can only, I think, really have the most general and broad kind of a question just isn't something that I think that I would be good at. So I won't be doing pick-a-pile readings. The fifth thing that I won't be doing on my channel is sugarcoating tarot book reviews. I am pretty interested in reviewing books. I review a lot of books. I review every book that I read on Goodreads and on Storygraph. I review advanced copies of books sometimes. I love talking about books with other people. I'm looking for a book club. If you would like to read a book with me, let me know. I read a fair amount of tarot books, I would say. Not a ton. I read more certainly in other genres than I do tarot books, but I read a fair amount, and I like to make kind of detailed reviews of those. And I will say that, you know, looking at the statistics of how I rate books that I read on something like Storygraph, which generates all kind of interesting graphs and pie charts and things about how your reading has gone, I do tend to rate tarot books on average lower than I do the fiction I read or other kinds of books. I frequently find myself underwhelmed by tarot books that I read. I don't love a lot of tarot books. I struggle with recommending tarot books to other people. I think that it is important to articulate critiques when giving a book review. And so I will do that consistently. I have, I would say, critiques even of the books that I like most. You know, I may think that a book is great and have lots to say about it that's positive, and, you know, it's a book that I might buy for somebody else, but I will still have critiques of that book, most likely, and I will not hesitate to share those with anybody who's interested in hearing them and or reading them when I review. I won't sugarcoat deck reviews either. I will say, though, that I feel like just by virtue of how the different media function, it's easier for me to tell whether I'm going to like and enjoy and want to work with a particular tarot deck before I buy it than it is for me to tell that about a book. A book is difficult because you've got kind of a jacket description, maybe a table of contents in a preview, and maybe a couple of other folks' book reviews to go on when a book is say newly published, whereas a tarot deck, you know, you can watch a full flip through, you can see what else the creator has done, you can kind of see the whole work with a deck in a way that you can't with a book. So I find that when I review decks, I may have less, or rather fewer critiques. My deck reviews may, I think, come off as more positive than my book reviews do. And I feel like that's just a function of the fact that almost every deck in my collection I've chosen myself, I've purchased myself based on, you know, my thinking that I will like and enjoy it. The few that I haven't purchased have been gifted to me by people who know my tastes. And so, you know, I don't I don't buy decks that I think I'm going to hate just to hate review them. That would be a waste of everyone's time. I buy books in hopes that I will like them, but I feel like I have less to go on a lot of the time. And so I think that my book reviews tend to maybe be a little bit more negative. But I will not be sugarcoating either one. And so I'm going to call that my 5th and 6th things that I won't be doing on my channel. Sugarcoat book reviews and sugarcoat deck reviews. It was really hard to come up with 10 because Heather's video was so good and I didn't want to be too repetitive. I will not, the 6th thing that I will not be doing, I will not use likes or dislikes to shape or determine what kinds of content that I make. You can probably hear the cardinal that's singing very loudly in my yard. I will never edit out bird sounds either when I'm outside. I will not use likes or dislikes to shape the content that I make. I, of course, in YouTube Studio can see the kind of ratios of likes to dislikes and the amount of likes that each video gets. Anytime I do anything to LGBTQ plus focused, the ratio is worse. Anytime I do anything that's not about tarot, the ratio is worse. Book-specific videos get, a higher number of dislikes to likes than tarot does. I also feel like, some of the videos that I'm most proud of are the ones that I've spent the most time on that I personally think are the most interesting, like the divination speculation videos, don't get as many views and don't get as high of likes or get more dislikes. And I'm not going to take that as an indication that I shouldn't make that content, because I think that it's content that I do well. And I think that it's content that is not being made by others. And again, I like having a varied channel. So it doesn't bother me that, for example, folks who come to my channel for tarot videos aren't going to be interested in the video I recently did about fountain pens, which got a higher percentage of dislikes than most of my recent videos did. I think that that's fine. So I'm not going to change my content based on that. 7th, I'm also not going to make content out of a sense of obligation. And by this I mean that I don't necessarily assume that I will have a channel forever. I have a channel now. I enjoy making content now. I don't see an obligation to continue making content in perpetuity or to not take long breaks if that's a thing that I need. I've never held myself to a particular kind of weekly or bi-weekly schedule when it comes to content, because I know that I just wouldn't keep it up. I can say that I wouldn't, barring some sort of emergency or something like that, I wouldn't just kind of vanish. If I was going to stop making content, I would make some kind of indication of that, if for no other reason than just so that folks aren't wondering if I'm okay. But yeah, I may or may not be on TarotTube for, a long time or a short time, who knows. I'm enjoying myself for the time being, but I won't continue going when I feel like it's either something that I don't have time for, that I don't have interest in, that I don't have anything more to say. Can't imagine that happening. Can't imagine that happening because I always have something to say. Or if I just feel inclined to put my finite energy and time into other pursuits, then that's what I'm going to do. Number 9. I wrote down on my Post-it that I won't put down other people's content in brackets. There are caveats to this. I will absolutely say something if someone were to make a video that's some sort of hateful diatribe, I would say something about that. If something kind of was going around, in the TarotTube community, content-wise, that I felt like needed to be critically discussed, then I would do that. But by not putting down others' content, I mean that I am not someone who is going to be putting down entire kind of types of content, and by extension, the people whose channels focus on that. I'm not going to be somebody who puts down channels who focus on tags. I'm not going to be someone who puts down channels that focus on pick-a-pile readings, even though it's not a thing I'm ever going to do myself because I just don't think I would be good at it. I'm not going to, you know, put down channels that focus on making shorts, even though it's totally not my thing at all. I feel like people make the kinds of content and participate in the community in ways that are the most accessible for them, the most approachable, the most comfortable. You know, when I was first starting out on TarotTube, I was nervous, like I'm sure everybody else. And I was, at that point then, going to make the kinds of content that I felt most comfortable making, that I felt, you know, I was kind of easing my way in. I wouldn't have necessarily, you know, made a divination speculations video as my first foray into TarotTube, for example. I think that people participating is a great thing. I think that a diversity of voices and personalities talking about tarot and oracle and all of the things, you know, is a good thing. So I'm not going to put down, you know, channels that just make different kinds of content or content that isn't my focus or anything like that. I also just feel like I would say that in kind of life in general, I'm just not the kind of person who puts other people down to try to lift myself up, and I really don't like that. I really don't like kind of broad stroke put downs of what other people are doing. You know, I think that it's not nice. And so I'm not going to be putting down other people's content in that way. And the last thing that I will not be doing, I will not comment or discuss or make remarks about the authenticity or not of other people's content, other people's channels. I think that, or my own actually for that matter, I will not talk about myself or my own content in terms of authenticity or inauthenticity either. It's one of these words and conversations that can happen at times that bugs me for a host of reasons. I feel like, you know, at the root of those kinds of comments at times, you know, when if someone's content on YouTube, for example, or their demeanor on YouTube or what they're saying is criticized as inauthentic, often what that can mean is that that person is being criticized for maintaining a sense of privacy or for maintaining a line between their online and offline life, or for not sharing as much about themselves, perhaps, as some others feel comfortable doing. And I feel like that's really problematic. You know, I think that that kind of criticism can reflect a particular sort of entitlement to people's private lives that I don't like. I also feel like there's a lot of presumptuousness built into the idea that, you know, any of us can watch somebody on YouTube and know somebody solely by watching their YouTube channel and then presume to make comments about whether they are being authentic or inauthentic in their content. I don't think that we can. And I also think that we, you know, like humans, are different in different contexts, right? Like if you meet me in the context of my job or either of my, you know, multiple jobs that I've had over the course of my adult life, you know, versus if you engage with me as a partner or as a, you know, as a friend in a one-on-one capacity, there are aspects of how I am in those different circumstances that vary, right? And that's not inauthenticity, right? And sometimes I think that conversations about authenticity kind of suggest that, you know, and I think that that's also kind of ridiculous. So, you know, the authenticity, inauthenticity is just not language that you're ever going to catch me on my channel using to talk about, you know, what other people are doing or what I'm doing. So that's my 10th thing. Those are the 10 things that I will not be doing on Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. Thank you to Heather for making the video that I'm not sure if it has a tag yet, or if it will have a tag, but here's my VR to it. And thanks to Julie at Peekaboo Rose as well for making a VR, which I also thoroughly enjoyed. And thank you for watching. I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.